I used to say yes to everything. PTA committees, work projects, family obligations, friend requests, volunteer opportunities. I thought saying yes made me a good person, a valuable team member, a supportive friend. Then, when I hit 50, I realized something wild. All that yes saying had turned me into a person I didn't even recognize. What I discovered after 50 is that saying no doesn't just get easier, it becomes absolutely necessary for your sanity and relationships. And once you learn how to do it without guilt, it changes everything about how you show up in the world. If this is your first time on this channel, I'm Ronnie from Third Act Society. Thank you for the privilege of your time. If you're someone who spent decades being the yes person in your family, your workplace, your community, today's conversation is going to feel like permission you didn't know you needed. Because somewhere around 50, something shifts. Maybe it's watching your kids leave and realizing you've been living everyone else's priorities. Maybe it's caring for aging parents and discovering your energy isn't unlimited. Maybe it's just waking up one day and thinking, wait, when did I become this person everyone calls when they need something? Whatever triggered it, you're starting to understand that saying yes to everything means saying no to yourself. And for women our age, that's no longer sustainable. Today, I'm sharing why saying no gets easier and more necessary after 50, and the real cost of chronic yes saying, and the strategic framework that lets you set boundaries without guilt or drama. Let me start with why this actually gets easier as we age. Because if you're still struggling with boundaries, you need to understand what's working in your favor now. By 50, you've watched what happens when people don't protect their time and energy. You've seen friends burn out from overcommitment. You've watched family members get taken advantage of because they couldn't say no. You've probably lived through seasons where your own yes saying led to exhaustion, resentment, or feeling completely invisible in your own life. This isn't theoretical anymore. You have real evidence that poor boundaries create real problems. When you're 30, you think you have infinite time to recover from bad decisions about how you spend your energy. At 50, you realize time is actually precious and you want to spend it intentionally. I remember the exact moment when this hit me. I was sitting in my car after another committee meeting I didn't want to be at, thinking about all the things I actually wanted to do with those 2 hours. That's when I realized saying yes to things I didn't care about was saying no to things I did care about. This is the secret weapon of women our age. The desperate need to be liked that drove so much of our earlier yes saying, it starts to fade. Not because we've become mean, but because we realize that people who get upset when you have boundaries probably weren't respecting you anyway. When you're raising kids, you say yes to school volunteering because you want to be seen as a good mom. When you're 50, you realize that how other parents judge your involvement has nothing to do with your actual relationship with your child. By 50, you figure out what matters to you and what doesn't. You don't need to explore every opportunity to discover yourself. You can say no to good things because you know what great looks like for your life. This clarity makes boundaries easier because you're not saying no out of fear or laziness. You're saying no because you have better ways to spend your limited time and energy. But let's talk about why learning to say no isn't just helpful. It's absolutely necessary for women our age. Your 50s and 60s should be some of your most interesting and free years. Kids are independent. You have professional experience and confidence. You finally have time and money for things you actually want to do. But if you're still saying yes to everything, you're too exhausted to enjoy any of it. I spent my early 50s wondering I felt so tired all the time when my life should have been getting easier. Turns out, I was still operating with the same yes saying patterns from my busy parenting years, except now I had different kinds of requests filling up my calendar. When you consistently say yes when you want to say no, you start resenting people making the requests, and that's not fair to them or to you. Your adult children don't know that your babysitting your grandkids every weekend is wearing you out if you never tell them. Your friends don't know that hosting every gathering is starting to feel like a burden if you keep volunteering your house with a smile. People can't respect your boundaries if you never set them. And the resentment that builds from unspoken boundaries damages relationships that matter to you. This is a big one. When you say yes to everyone else's priorities, you're essentially saying no to your own life design. I realized this when my daughter called from college asking about my weekend plans, and I literally had nothing interesting to tell her. Every commitment on my calendar was something someone else had asked me to do. None of it was about what I wanted to explore or experience. You end up becoming the person who makes everyone else's life run smoothly, while your own life becomes this collection of other people's requests. That's not sustainable, and it's definitely not fulfilling. Okay, so how do you actually get good at saying no without feeling guilty or damage relationships? You need a framework, not just good intention. Step 1, clarify your current season. Before you can say no strategically, you have to know what you're saying yes to. What are your actual priorities for this season of your life? Not what you think they should be, not what they were 5 years ago, but what you actually want to focus on right now. For me, it's building this community, writing, staying healthy enough to travel, and maintaining close relationships with my children and the few friends who really matter. Your priorities might be completely different. Maybe it's finally getting your financial house in order, exploring creative projects you never had time for, or figuring out what retirement could look like. But you have to name them specifically because everything is not a priority strategy. Step 2, create your yes/no filter. Once you know your priorities, you create a simple filter for every request that comes your way. The filter is this: does this request move me towards my future priorities or away from them? Notice I didn't say, is this good cause? Or would this help someone? Those questions make everything seem important. The question is whether this particular request fit with what you've decided matters most in this season of your life. If the answer is yes, you consider it. If the answer is no, you have your answers without guilt. Step 3, the strategic no response system. Now, for the practical part. How do you actually say no without being rude or burning bridges? For family request, try this: I can't take that on right now, but I care about you. Can we brainstorm other solutions? This acknowledges the relationship while you're protecting your boundaries. You're not saying you don't care. You're saying you can be the solution. For work or professional request, my current commitment don't allow me to give this attention it deserves. You might want to consider alternative solutions. This positions your no as protecting quality rather than avoiding work. For friend and social requests, you might consider, that sounds wonderful, but it doesn't fit with what I have energy for right now. I hope you have a great time. Simple, honest, and you're not just making excuses or over-explaining. For guilt-inducing requests, say, I understand this is important to you. It's just not something I can commit to doing well right now. The key is not to justify or explain. You don't owe anyone a detailed explanation of your priorities. Step 4, the follow-up strategy. Sometimes saying no creates awkwardness, especially with people who are used to you saying yes. You need a follow-up strategy. If someone seems hurt or surprised by your no, acknowledge it. I know I used to say yes to everything, but I'm trying to be more intentional about my commitment so I can do a better job with the things I do take on. If they push back or try to guilt you, you could say, I've given this careful thought, and this is what works for me right now. If they keep pushing, say, I hear that you're disappointed, but my decision stands. The goal isn't to make them happy with your boundary. The goal is to maintain the relationship while protecting your priorities. When saying no gets complicated, let's talk about that. Now, let's talk about the tricky situations, because saying no isn't always straightforward when it's family. Family requests feel different because these relationships matter long term, and there's often guilt wrapped up in family dynamics. But here's what I learned. Family relationships actually get better when you have boundaries, not worse. When I stopped saying yes to every family gathering, holiday traditions, and crisis intervention, my relationships become more intentional and less stressful. The key with family is consistency. If you only say no occasionally, they'll see it as negotiable. If you have clear, consistent boundaries, they will adjust their expectations. Guilt is going to happen, especially in the beginning. You're going to say no to something and immediately think, oh, maybe I should have just said yes. When guilt shows up, ask yourself, am I feeling guilty because I'm actually doing something wrong, or because I'm changing a pattern that people were comfortable with? Most of the time, it's the second one. People got used to you being available for everything, and now you're not. That's not wrong. It's different. The guilt fades as you start seeing the positive results of protecting your time and energy. So, when is it a good cause, you ask? This one is hard because you genuinely want to support good causes and help worthy organizations. But supporting every good cause means you can't really support anything well. When I stopped volunteering for multiple organizations and focused my time on one that really mattered to me, my contribution became more meaningful, not less. You can care about childhood literacy, environmental protection, and animal rescue without personally volunteering for all three. Saying no to good causes when you can't fully commit to means saying yes to the causes where you can make a real difference. And remember, there will always be good causes that need help. The question is, which one align with your current priorities and where can you contribute most effectively? The goal of saying no isn't to become antisocial or unhelpful. It's to protect space for things that matter most to you in this season of life. When you get strategic about your no's, your yes become more intentional and more meaningful. The time I used to spend on committees I didn't care about, I now spend building this community of women navigating similar transitions. The energy I used to give to obligations that drain me, I now use for writing and travel and maintaining the relationships that actually matter. The no's should serve your yeses. Every time you decline something that doesn't fit your priorities, you're protecting space for something that does. And the people who really matter in your life will respect your boundaries because they want you to be happy and fulfilled, not exhausted and resentful. Learning to say no after 50 isn't about becoming selfish or difficult. It's about finally using the wisdom and life experience you've gained to make intentional choices about how you spend your time and energy. You've earned the right to be selective. You've paid your dues with your decades of saying yes when you wanted to say no. This season of your life is about designing days that reflect your actual priorities, not everyone else's needs. If you're ready to get strategic about boundaries and connect with other women who are learning to put themselves on their own priority list, join our Free Thought Act Society community. And if you want personalized guidance on setting boundaries in your specific situation, I offer free 15-minute strategy calls where you can talk through exactly what's challenging you. What's the hardest thing for you to say no to right now? Share in the comment, because learning to set boundaries is so much easier when you're not doing it alone.